Hello, and welcome to Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, covering political and social issues one liberty at a time, with entertaining insights of current events and important discussions on topics that affect us all, shining the torch of liberty and brightening the future by bringing libertarianism into our everyday life. And now, your host, the friendly neighborhood libertarian, Jason Lyon, Mr. America, the Bearded Truth on Muddied Waters Media.
Hello everybody. Oh my word, I almost didn't get that off right. How's it going, everyone? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing fine. Today's not a show I like doing so much because of the emotional aspect of it, because of we're talking about real people having their lives be absolutely wrecked and destroyed after already having to live through Hurricane Ian. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what's happening there from a law enforcement side. Let me fix my camera for you guys. What's happening from law enforcement side of how they're actually making it worse for the people across Florida who've already had so much of their lives taken up, destroyed, and many lives have already been lost, but they're continuing to work against their own people's interests and being able to restore to their livelihoods and everything else. It's a heartbreaking thing. And so today we're going to be talking about this. If you guys follow Spike Cohen on his Facebook page, on his Twitter, he dropped a long thread there. Make sure you guys are tuning in for that, checking that out, help and throw support where you guys can. But we're going to be piggybacking off of that a little bit. Been working in conjunction with him and with a couple other organizations to try to help bring some relief and bring some justice and make things better for, of course, for the restoration here in after Hurricane Ian, but also in future hurricanes. As we all know, Florida is prone to having hurricanes come around that region. They aren't necessarily always as destructive as as Hurricane Ian is. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But it kind of, this isn't the same as like Wyoming getting hit with a hurricane, right? Whereas like that's a freak of nature accident. This is something where if you're in an area like that, they should be able to give their responses. But so I'm heartbroken to have this conversation with you guys today, but I thank you guys for being here. But yes, I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. I'm so excited to be here with you guys, to share this time with you guys and to talk to you guys about what's going on out there. I'm going to go ahead and take these out. I don't have any need for headphones tonight. It's just me flying solo. If you guys drop any comments, your comments will show up there right that side right there. I'll be looking at them. Be able to respond to your comments live, of course, be able to give you guys the insight, the scoops and everything else. I have been working and in conjunction with some people who decide to remain anonymous about the stories that they've shared with us, and some stories that they have been made public. And so we're gonna cover both of those. Got 4 major stories that we're gonna be discussing, and just the ways of how the restoration, the and the recovery and the relief efforts have been thwarted. But before we get into that, I got to say thank you to Matt and Spike for continuing to give me a platform here on Muddy Waters Media to discuss with you guys my views, my opinions, my stances on things. So always thank you to you both for that. Love this platform. Love all of you guys who tune in each and every week here on the Mr. America, the Bearded Truth show. But I also got to give a thank you to each and every one of you guys tuning in live on the live streams, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Float, Odyssey, or wherever you're seeing this live stream. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Thank you so much for hitting the like button, for dropping some comments, for interacting with other people's comments and everything else. We have a lot of stuff to cover tonight. And so I thank you guys for helping build out the algorithm. We have been thwarted, partially on our fault, partially on Facebook and other social media's faults as well. If you guys are checking this later on the podcast app, thank you guys so much for doing that. Thank you so much. That's incredible. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys all. Make sure you guys are giving us those 5-star reviews so we can continue to spread, continue to build, and continue to just be able to give you guys what's the scoop, what's the inside stuff that some of the media is not talking about. But of course, little drops that are managing to make it through aren't getting the necessary highlighting, as opposed to, I don't know, January 6th things or Alex Jones and his civil case. We can discuss those at a later day. How's it going, Alan? We can discuss those at a later day, but this is the stuff that's hard hitting that we can actually make changes on, that we can make an impact on. And we'll talk about some of those call to actions later on. Want to give a shout out and a big thank you to, of course, Brian, Scott Lambrick, and to Jenny for the intro that we use on this episode and every episode of Mr. America, the Bearded Truth. And if you guys happen to be in LibertyCon right now down there in Miami, I hope you guys are enjoying that time. It's an incredible event being put on by Students for Liberty. They're an incredible organization worldwide, helping change the hearts and minds of literally millions of people across the globe. And of course, as we're here struggling against a giant, massive government, so are so many people who are facing persecution for merely voicing their opinions. So Students for Liberty is doing a great thing, and having the LibertyCon going on right now, that's an incredible, exciting event, star-studded event, especially. So, big shout out to them, and of course, we gotta give a big shout out to Kelsey Line Designs. If you guys are looking to upgrade your website, your campaign, an event that you've got coming up, you're just looking to rebrand, get a new logo, rebrand your logo, looking to get business cards, publications, shirts, what have you, whatever your needs are, from the graphic designs, solutions, and strategies, you guys got to head over to kelseylion.designs and use the code. Let her know that you got sent by Muddy Waters, and she'll hook you up with a little discount for that. It's everybody loves her. Spike Cohen's, she's worked for Spike Cohen. She's worked for Natalie Bruno. She's worked for Joe Jorgensen. She has worked for Ashley Shade. She's worked for people across the libertarian spectrum and outside of the libertarian spectrum, and she's just incredible. She's also my wife. But I love her, and I'm not speaking of her because she's my wife. I'm speaking of her because of the work that she does. Also, while we're talking about events, of course, Students for Liberty putting on their LibertyCon right now. We do have an event coming up where Spike Cohen, Tasha Cohen, myself, and Kelsey Lyon, and Matt Wright, and the soon-to-be Mrs. Wright will be there, all in Brevard County, Melbourne, Florida, November 8th. If you guys are looking to get a part of this, is going to be an incredible night down there at the zoo. Head on down to lpbrevard.org/gala. Sign up today. You're not going to want to miss that. I just got my suit today for that, and let me just tell you, it's an incredible suit. If I was a good impersonator of Trump, it would be the best suit. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. It's going to be a good time for sure. And of course, Spike, don't tread on my internet capable devices. But today's show, yes, we're talking about Florida. Couple stories. We've got Charlotte County has got a big story that some people have caught wind of. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss some things in Lee County. That's Pine Island. And also an anonymous story that I've been able to verify. An anonymous story in Arcadia, Florida, just about 40 miles inland. So a lot of horrible things happened since the time of the hurricane. Now, of course, the hurricane was on September 28th, so we're 2 weeks out. So you would hope that the stories are stopping. You would hope that everyone is there, everyone's engaging, everyone's helping, and all efforts are things are going better than they were. It's not the case, sadly. Things are getting better since they started in some aspects, but there are still major roadblocks happening. And so we're going to discuss some of those. So Spike Cohen has a thread on Facebook. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you guys head over to Spike Cohen's politician page, if you will. He's got a long thread. It was dropped yesterday. And he discusses from the Pine Island. Now, some of the stories that happened in Pine Island was that they got hit with 155-mile-per-hour winds. They were just absolutely devastated. They just got pounded for hours. And so many people don't leave their homes when it comes to hurricanes because, honestly, they've kind of been conditioned. If you live in Florida, you kind of get hit with that a lot. It's similar to being in Alaska and you're getting getting hit with blizzards, right? You just kind of, you're like, whatever, I know how to deal with this, I can grapple with this. When it comes to hurricanes, a lot of Floridians don't really see this as a big thing. They see this as a time to come together with their community and to drink and to have a merry time. They get declared to move out all the time and to evacuate, and they don't necessarily always take that order. Partially because the meteorologists sometimes, you guys have seen the spaghetti models, the things are crazy, they're absolutely insane with the different methods and paths and everything else, and you're like, all right, so only 6 of the 76 different spaghetti noodles are going to hit us, so I'm going to take this bet. So the people of Pine Island, many people stayed on that island. This is their only home, this is their only place of residence, this is where they work, this is where their lives have been. So they stayed on this island, so they get blasted for hours from Hurricane Ian, 155-mile-per-hour winds. So you can imagine that there was a lot of destruction. They have one bridge coming into the island. That bridge got broke. It's in tatters. They're working to repair that right now. That was a whole nother situation. But of course, there's families there stuck on this island who couldn't leave, couldn't come. If they were able to leave, they wouldn't be able to come back. Local law enforcement, specifically Lee County Sheriff's Office, said that it was unsafe for people to transit across the bridge. So they claim safety sometimes. They also claim that they never stopped anybody from coming on or coming off. We've had multiple volunteers from good organizations such as United Cajun Navy who was there immediately. They were getting turned around, and several dozens, or at least dozens of events where people were turned around, volunteers with food, with water, with supplies in order to help prevent further damaging of homes, to be able to bring in equipment to help with survival, because these people lost power. They lost a means of gathering more food, of gathering more water, of being able to take care of themselves. So you had law enforcement there who were protecting people from coming onto the island. We saw the story from Governor DeSantis, where as soon as the hurricane was coming, he already was putting out the warning calls of looters, you will not be handled in a nice way. Looters, we will persecute you if you survive, I think was one of the near quotes. You know, they were out there, right? Law enforcement was geared up and ready to protect people's properties, allegedly. So Lee County, specifically Pine Island, gets absolutely obliterated. The people in these homes, they had no means of communicating out. They had no power to charge their phones. Many of them had no reception. Many of them had very limited access to be able to reach out beyond the island. So we don't know exactly still how many people have died there. We don't know exactly how many people could have been saved but have died since then. But what we do know is that the Lee County Sheriff's Office was prohibiting anyone from transiting across the bridge, sometimes claiming safety, sometimes claiming that they weren't prohibiting anyone at all, which is nonsensical. And this happened for a week and a half. Now, finally, Lee County Sheriff's, their IC there, said, hey, you guys can't cross this bridge. But somebody in the public relations on their website said that it is open, but that everyone would be vetted, right? They're concerned about the idea of looters, right? Just as I talked about with Governor DeSantis. So they were concerned that looters were going to come onto the island, start taking up people's stuff and everything else. So they were like, we're going to let people come across. We're going to limit the number of people that can come across. We're going to vet each and every one of you to make sure you guys are a contractor. You guys live there. You guys are respected and honored by the crown, if you will. You have your permits in place to be able to go and perform in these recovery efforts. So when the IC was like, you can't transit across because it's unsafe, the public relations on the website said that you could. There's a family there, or sorry, a couple there This is the Russells. This is Kevin and Jennifer Russell. They're in many of the articles. If you look at anything from Pine Island, they're named and they're quoted. These are two people that are incredible because they were able to. They have a Facebook group, 20,000 members in this group talking about Pine Island. Normally, it's about events. It's about fun things to do. It's about different things. It's just community building. Something that we all love here. They turned it into a response page. They turned it into a relief page. Here's what's happening. Here's the relief efforts. Here's what this is happening. Here's what this is happening. We're going to bring these supplies to this area. These things here, and the Russells have been doing an incredible job with that. But the United Cajun Navy, one of the good organizations down there, these are people equipped with boats with capabilities of performing search and rescue missions, because these people oftentimes are trained either in the military or by other means, but are trained and certified by the governments, multiple governments, in order to perform these things. Even when that bridge was shut down and nobody was allowed to transit across, they also prohibited anyone from going onto the island by other means to help provide resources. So you have families that have lost it all, potentially lost a family member in this, that are stuck in their homes, stuck with no food, no water. They can't get any resources into their homes in order to help those who have survived. They can't transit out to get to safer areas, places that have power. They're stuck there. They're effectively held hostage by the Lee County Sheriff's Office. But even the United Cajun Navy, with their search and rescue certificates, with their certifications, and with their boats and their equipment and their staffing, they're unable to go into Lee County or onto Pine Island to help save people. This has been a shit show since the beginning, and it continues to be. Lee County, actually, I think that there's roughly around 3 or 4 stories that I saw, separate stories. And if you look to the people on Pine Island and the way that they discuss this and the way that they view this outpouring or this response from their government, they're absolutely devastated. People are waking up that the government, with the barriers, with the bureaucracy, with the permission slips and everything else, they are not working in their interest. So that's why we, the people, why we here on Muddy Waters Media, why we in You Are the Power, why we in the United Cajun Navy, why we working within that group of the Russells are doing our damnedest to not let the barrier of the state stand in our way. It breaks my heart the way that this happened, to know that more people have died as a result of effectively of what the police department was doing in Uvalde with the school shooting. People were actively being hurt, and the police were more concerned about detaining people and preventing them from coming on. Now, I talked about when you had the difference between the IC and the PR person on the website. When that came to, the IC finally said, yeah, we have to open up the bridge. And the website said that you'd be vetted. And there was concerns of people coming on to loot. And so the vetting process didn't exist. Because even when the government says we're going to vet you, what they did from there was they just merely opened up the gate and allowed for people to come in. People were transiting across. So they didn't actually care about the safety of people. They didn't care about the property of people. They didn't care about any of this stuff. Lee County is arguably probably my most heartbreaking story of this. And to see these people and to hear their accounts and to hear of different stories of people seeking medical attention and being denied access, of people starving and not having water, but seeing law enforcement there with pizzas and with food and water and everything else, and asking them, begging them for it, and law enforcement to tell them, no, we're not giving this to you. I'm gonna post some of these stories in the in the show notes after the show, because this is stuff like it. Even saying this after hearing this from people, hearing this from their accounts of being in contact with some of these individuals, after hearing witnesses of this talk about this, of reading these articles and seeing it in black and white, it still seems so surreal. It's unfathomable that you can watch somebody suffer and say, nah, that's my pizza, yo. You have to wonder what the protect and serve really means for them. And while we're talking about this, so this is one of the stories that has not been made public. I haven't seen any articles on it, so I've got to keep it anonymous. But I have people that I've spoken with that only gave me the story under the promise of remaining anonymous, and so I apologize to you guys for that. But in Arcadia, 40 miles inland, the day after or 2 days after the event, after Hurricane Ian came through, in Arcadia, you had a situation where people were, if you guys know how hurricanes work, the water comes in, the storm comes in, the wind comes in, the rain comes in, everything comes in, and that raises the water level. And then as soon as it passes through, the water level comes back, and then it slaps forward again. And so you have flooding going inland so far. And so Arcadia, 40 miles inland, got hit with some heavy flooding. And during this times, there were people on top of their roofs because water was so high that they got on top of their roofs. And there was a story of 15 people sitting on top of one rooftop, and they were able to ping out and request help. And so there was a group of people certified with search and rescue, with equipment, with personnel, with everything necessary to go and actually provide relief to these people, to retrieve them from these rooftops and bring them to a safer location. This sounds like plain Jane doing the right thing within your community. You're not asking for money. You're not asking for anything. You're just merely lending out a hand, grabbing them, pulling them into your boat, and then taking them to a safer location. The DeSoto Sheriff's Office not only prevented them from saving these people who were actively on their rooftops, but also harassed and threatened to arrest the individuals trying to help out in that cause. This is another one of those stories that, like, I sit here and I'm like, there's no way. And I spoke with 2 different people on 2 different occasions who were around in that same party to get that as much verification as I could. They're fearful that if they go public with it, that there will be backlash from the government. Not backlash from the public, but backlash from the government itself. The controls and the limitations placed and enforced by the law enforcement in Florida is reprehensible. They claim that it's in your interest and it's for your safety, that you can't be saved from your rooftop. I'm just looking at that and my heart breaks for all of these people. We have another story, and this one was in Charlotte County. There's a Texas roofer. So this man owns a business, a roofing business. He's got an A+ rating by the BBB. He's been running since 2008. He has been helping people in Texas since 2008. 15 years, or 14 years this year. 14 years of doing business. As soon as the hurricane hit, he was already picking up his company, picking up a lot of his workers, picking up equipment, and traveling down to Florida in order to help out. So he's in Charlotte County, Florida. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but his first name is Terrence. Might be Duke. Duque. Terrence Duke. I'm just gonna call him Duke. Hopefully I get that right. Um, he goes into action and he moves and he goes to Florida to help. And Florida has a law that you cannot perform anything unless you're blessed by the Florida government. So normally it's a misdemeanor to operate without this. But due to a natural disaster, due to limitations on how many people are going there, due to the necessity of immediate responses in order to help preserve people, to help save people's lives and preserve what you can of their homes in order to prevent further destruction, further costs, which ultimately, based off of DeSantis's request to President Biden for emergency relief, saving taxpayer dollars in the end of the day, he goes down and he holds events where he's giving out food and water and supplies for people. He's going to work on rebuilding and building up the structures around people's homes and helping them out. And people are understanding that he is not local, that he is from Texas, and they signed contracts to say, I would like for your assistance on this, I would like for your work, and I will pay you. The charges that he's been charging people is markedly less. He is doing this at cost, or at less than cost. It is costing him money to provide these services. So he goes down there and he starts providing this service for people. People sign the contracts, they understand what's going on, and the what's the name of that one? The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office catches wind. Now, he held events around them, with them, working in conjunction with them, and he was helping in this response. But when they found out that he was not licensed in Florida, normally this would be a misdemeanor, but because of after it's been declared a state of emergency, it suddenly becomes a felony. So Terrence, Good Samaritan Terrence, good neighbor Terrence, goes to Florida to help people recover and is arrested and can serve up to 5 years in prison for doing so. Five years in prison. I don't know how to grapple with that. I don't know how you can justify that. And thankfully, if you find their tweet, if you go and open up their tweets from I think it's the PBBR, the Florida PBBR, if you look at that, everybody is outraged, and rightfully so. It's absolutely disgusting the way that they were doing this. Actually, I've got it right here. Florida PBBR. During state of emergency, working without proper licensure is a felony. Thanks to Division of Regulations hard work in impacted areas, they arrested a worker putting Floridians at risk. Putting people at risk for helping them out. This is the stuff that, like, it's not just libertarians get upset about this. This isn't just Republicans getting upset about this. This isn't Democrats getting upset about this. This is non-voters saying it's really fucked up what they're doing here. And rightfully so. We have to actually do something about this. It's nonsensical. There's laws in that state that you cannot accept donations if you've not been blessed by the Department of Agriculture as a 501 status. So if you go down and you provide support, you provide food, if you provide things for free to other people, and you say, while we're here, we're going to accept donations virtually or physically, you're in violation of the law. They have made it so difficult for the communities to come in to help. So of course the question is how does the government respond to this? FEMA. How does FEMA respond? Well, FEMA just got to Pine Island yesterday. 2 weeks after Hurricane Ian comes through. 2 weeks it took FEMA to come show up. When FEMA shows up, typically they're bringing like borderline day one equipment for people. They're like, oh, water and tarps. And I think that one was anonymous, so I'm not going to share that publicly. There was a group that was there already providing relief in the area, and FEMA had shown up, and this was earlier this week, and so this was more inland, or this was on the mainland, if you will. The group was there already restoring houses. Tarps were laid on homes that had holes in their roofs, and they were looking to nail things down and to help provide a temporary barrier until you can get a something more permanent put in place. FEMA showed up and gave them tarps. So the government response is terrible. The government's response was to barricade, prevent any help from coming in or going out, was to prevent resources to be given to people. It prevents people from coming from outside states to come in and provide support. And it also, through FEMA, comes in a day late and $1 short. I'm absolutely devastated and heartbroken for the families in Florida who felt like they had no other means, or didn't think that, maybe just didn't trust that the spaghetti model that was coming their way was the spaghetti model that was going to happen. But I'm heartbroken to see like the devastation, the starvation, the dehydration, just the loss of life. I had one organizer that went to a market, because they opened up a market for people to come in and to get their resources, whatever they need, in order to, provide for their communities. And she was standing and walking around throughout this market, and she could smell the methane of people, of dead people. And there was law enforcement there, and she goes, you need to go and find where these people are. And they say, no, we can't do that. You have people that are clearly dead in the area that they won't count because they won't find them, they won't collect them, so they minimize the damage that's happening to the people. They refuse to give us an accurate number. They just say, oh, well, numbers are conservative, they're low at best. And it's like, well, if you guys would actually go in, maybe you could save a couple lives. Maybe there's somebody that's pinned and crushed next to somebody else who's dead. There's so many opportunities here. So it's been a lack of empathy from the law enforcement side of things. It's been a lack of care. It's a lack of apathy. It's just sheer indifference, it feels like, when it comes from the government side of things. And so we are working right now. We're working right now to set up some calls to actions to actually make some changes here. For example, that law that I was talking about for being able to receive donations, if you're not blessed by the Department of Agriculture, we're actually going to go after that law. We're going to ask for DeSantis to make an immediate release through a state of emergency declaration, because I'm sure he's going to continue doing those as the government gets, first of all, federal funding from this, but also gets new enumerated powers, and they also get to take in the roofers and slap them with felonies. So the next time we can push him to give that release, to allow for businesses and organizations to come in and help provide relief, and also to be able to receive those donations so that they can do what they need to do. We're looking to talk to legislators and actually end that law for whenever a natural emergency comes about, to make it to where, hey, if you have a hurricane event, you have 90 days, you have 180 days for organizations to come in and kind of get that little buffer room to be able to come in and provide support. We're at a time where the interconnectivity of all these communities is insane. When something happens in Florida, people of Georgia, people of Alabama, people of South Carolina, people of Texas are able to come in and provide help. There's no reason other than worried about the money that you're missing out on for these governments to stop this. So we're working on those initiatives. We're working with United Cajun Navy. We have, if you guys are interested, there's areas you can donate. They are a 501c or 501c4, I believe, 501c3, 501c4 in Florida, blessed by the Department of Agriculture. They have everything that they need, so you can donate to the United Cajun Navy there in Florida. I believe that they may be one of the only couple sanctioned by the state. But you can also, if you're available, you can donate to them. You can volunteer with them, and you can also figure out what they need in order to bring some supplies. We are going to be heading down this next week to the Tampa Bay area, and in doing so, we're going to make a trip down a little bit further, down to Fort Myers, where they're requesting right now. They're looking for baking soda, something just to help with the smell of these homes that have been hit with water, that are going to start molding, that are going to start having a lot of problems. It's a way to help fight back a little bit. So there's little things like that. We're getting I think it was like a couple pounds. I think it was like 15 pounds for $9. Like it's a lot for a little. And so you can find ways that you can help support the people in Florida. You can find the organizations that are being blessed by the Department of Agriculture and blessed by the Florida government and blessed by the different sheriff's associations, in order to help provide relief to these people that are still in need 2 weeks later. And beyond that, we're going to be working hard. And so if you guys are looking to get involved, you guys are looking to get engaged on this, I would appreciate it immensely. My heart breaks for all these people. But you guys can always go over to youarethepower.net, sign up, get a part of You Are the Power. We're going to be taking actions. We're going to be moving things around, and we're going to make stuff happen, because this stuff here, this is life-changing, right? This situations like this is life or death for so many people. And it's easy for us to get bogged down with the, well, you should have left, or yada, yada, yada. With the, well, I didn't make that decision, and so you shouldn't have made that decision. And there's a time and a place for armchairing, for quarterbacking from the armchair. But there's also a time when we can go out and we can help our communities, and we can spread our message of goodness and actually be those torchbearers that we miraculously have been talking about for the last 2 weeks on this show. So there's an opportunity here. I hope that you guys are going to be taking this up. I really genuinely hope you guys will help spread this message, share Spike Cohen's page, help share what we're doing at a minimum. I mean, anything and everything is absolutely appreciated. We love you guys, and we appreciate you so much for that. I don't even want to get into like the other news, like Matt Wright getting married and everything else. Like, that's why we're going down. But this is stuff that, like, when I hear of like an 87-year-old man who didn't have a way off the island, gets battered by the storm and gets hospitalized for a couple days, comes out of the hospital and has no way of getting home and nowhere to go, and so he's sitting in somebody else's home who was nice enough to let him in, and they've let in a couple people into their home. But this is another Lee County, Pine Island. They have a boat where they do business from. They are not allowed to, by the Sheriff's Association, to go onto their own boat, to utilize their boat, to take equipment from their boat. They're not allowed to access their own boat, even though it is safe, because the Sheriff's Association and some other organizations who have been sanctioned by the Lee County Sheriffs are able to use their boats. They are prohibited from it, and all they're doing is trying to help people through an incredibly hard time. I look at across Florida, and I said this before. This is a place that is prone to having hurricanes in and around it all the time. Every hurricane season, Florida somehow miraculously has one or two heading its way. The response from government is absolutely unacceptable, and I think it's something that we can corral around, that we can make a difference, that we can make a change on. And so I would implore you guys, if you guys can, I know many of you guys probably can be better speakers than I. Start up a podcast. Let your voices be heard. Share it out. Talk to family members, talk to community members, talk to people around you. See what you guys can do, see what you guys can come up with to help spread the awareness, and then also that we can have some accountability here, we can have some transparency here, and that we can actually help restore people back to their livelihoods. I don't want to go too long with this. I feel like I ramble the entire time whenever it's a solo show. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys all so much for being here, and for sticking it through. But there is so much here. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys all. I hope you guys are going to continue to do good and do well around you guys. Next week, like I said, I will not be on doing a show. I don't think that we're doing a show down there. But the following week I will be back, and we'll see you guys soon. But you guys be good, be well. I'll drop some links in the show notes later, and for you guys to check out and to see just the sheer devastation that's happened from Hurricane Ian, and then also from the response from government. We have to do better, we have to see better, and we have to have better. It's unacceptable. So I love you guys. Be good, be well. I'll see you guys in about 2 weeks.